Okay, so this is episode 2 of Pick Your Potion. We have named this fucking podcast Keeping It Simple, Keeping It Easy. I am a firm believer in mindset. Mindset has been a big part of my journey, and the words we use are really important. And I thought it was a funny play on words, how people say, oh, pick your poison. Like, well, why not fucking pick your potion? Why not pick what's going to help serve you? Why not pick the stuff that is going to heal you? And that's pretty much the essence of everything that I do is I want to share and inspire and help people to heal in a manner that allows them to be authentic, allows them to heal without judgment, allows them to explore their uniqueness. Because one thing I have learned from working on bodies over the last 12 years was how unique everyone is, how everyone is different. One size does not fit all, and we are constantly changing. So having a diverse set of self-care tools in your healing toolkit is what will best support you. I will use analogies of the body a lot because the body to me has been one of the biggest teachers, and I believe it is one of the best depictive analogies that we can really resonate with. One, because we all have a body. Two, it's something you can study. And these analogies really traverse time and space for me personally, what I've experienced on my journey. And in regards to your gut health, they're finding the greater the microbiome you have, the healthier you are. Same thing goes for the foods you eat. That's how you get that diverse makeup of microbiome. I believe the same thing goes for healing 100%. And the reason for that is we are many different layers. And on my journey of walking through addiction, I call it chemical dependency and codependency. To me, everything in life boils down to a level of codependency, of a conditional give and take. That's something that I notice is very readily accepted in our society. It's something that I personally have struggled a lot with. And now that and not just, viewing it, but energetically feeling it. I've struggled with my own bouts with that energy, watching it almost control me. There's moments on my journey where I've noticed I've been like a third party in a almost like the peanut gallery. I was just viewing what was going on. It's like I had no control. And that experience mixed with my big emotions, the addiction, what happened early on in my life really led me to question and seek answers for my life because growing up, I did not have a lot of answers. And I want to share my story of addiction and the foundation of it so that you can understand where I'm coming from as I progress through this story. It's going to be a few episodes. I am currently in the process of quitting smoking again. To me, smoking is the baseline of addiction for me as it's shown itself time and time again. It's the one thing that will bring me back into other toxic cycles and allow other toxic cycles back into my energy field. And every time I've quit smoking, a new way of being has come out of me. A new level of healing has shown itself. And it also called me to step more fully into the role of being my self-healer. And a lot of this was self-taught because one, I'm very holistic. My family doesn't really jive that way. I'm also a shaman raised in a Christian church. I'm a pastor's child, so you can just see there's an automatic polarity there. I'm also a female woman with ADHD, autism, and dyslexia. So that sensitivity also has played into my own experience of addiction. And those are just my personal things, let alone other stuff that has happened to me on my journey. And dealing with chronic pain most of my life. 13, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. 21, I was told I needed to have back surgery. I had early onsets of Parkinson's. So there was a physical aspect of me wanting to heal and stay in control of my faculties as much as possible, as long as possible. And the fact that I was so young with these ailments, once I started healing, I didn't realize that I had been living with chronic pain my whole life. It's crazy to me. And then you add in the anxiety and depression that I had been dealing with, not just from how sensitive I was, but also from the energies I had been taking in from the world around me. My shamanic gifts allowed me to be extremely empathetic, to tap into things that I had no idea what was going on, and I was gaslit a lot. So I was very alone in my experience starting as a child, which can really warp someone's way of being and really seek a means of shutting all of this down. So we not only do we have that, but I grew up, I'm a child of divorce. So divorce was a big part of my story as well. At 14, I was tried to unalive myself. That's also a part of my journey. 16, I was sexually assaulted. And at 18, I was homeless. And I chose that homelessness because I was using. And I chose to use rather than live in a household that was toxic. Because for me, and the one thing I've realized on my journey, especially with addiction, is there's a lot of shame and a lot of blame put on the addict, saying, you're the problem. Or they say, oh, it's our genetics, so there's something wrong there. It's like we don't have any choice in the matter. But the thing is, it's really a signal of an issue that's been going on before that person was an addict. Because if it's genetic, really it ties into generational trauma. And generational trauma can go back X amount of generations. This past, oh my God, it's already been a year. December. So, okay. So maybe about 7 months ago, I'm in the process of completing this energy healing course because it encompasses everything that I've learned and it brings it all together under one house, and something I personally really wish I had at the beginning of my at my life, so I could understand the energies, I could work with them, I could protect myself, and I wouldn't be taking on all the stuff that isn't mine. Because being so sensitive, there was a level of enmeshment that happens, I believe, with addicts, especially neurodivergents. Not all addicts are neurodivergent. Not all neurodivergents are addicts. So just like, not every poodle's a dog kind of thing. I hope that analogy works there. But my sensitivity and what I found is as I've progressed, I was reflecting and expressing emotions that weren't mine. I was expressing emotions that were generational traumas from generations past that just needed to come up and out and to be expressed. And they were being housed in my body for whatever reason. I was the one who was chosen to go through this. And generational trauma is very intense, very misunderstood, and again, can lead to a need and want to disconnect from those big emotions because you feel so fucking out of control. This world is already intense enough. You want to throw in emotions that aren't even yours, that you don't even know how to process, and for me, it was anger. I had this huge anger that I didn't know where it came from. It just felt so foreign. but I knew it was mine, and it just felt like I had no control over it. But it wasn't until years down the road that I found out that it was tied to generational trauma that connected to family lineage that went through genocide. And I actually relived that through a regression that happened on a birthday of mine while I was watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which also opened me up to my shamanic gifts as well as being said witch or shaman. A lot of things have played into this, but when it comes to generational trauma, what I found 7 months ago is the root cause of the issue on my mom's side was 17 generations ago. On my dad's side, it was 16 generations ago. And it wasn't until I started clearing not only the generational trauma, but the collective traumas and thought forms that really play a part, I think, in almost creating a hive mind because society deems certain ways of being acceptable. I believe our society has created a lot of masking around this to adhere to a lot of wounding. Again, that wounding, stuff that I feel a lot of people would agree, there is a lot of stuff that is not okay in our society. And I know a lot of people would love that change. And from what I've experienced through my work with addiction is until you address that root cause, you will just perpetuate the wound that you want to heal. It's really frustrating and really humbling all at the same time because we all want to, and I know I've done this, project our pain and shame, blame, and play victim. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, if we want to see that change in the world, we need to be it in ourselves. And being in a world that is so driven by technology, it's essential that I find, incorporate healing that addresses the electromagnetic field of the body. I believe a lot of things mirror and parallel in the fact that we live in an electronic driven society. We need to start bringing electronic or energy healing into the forefront, because I have found on my journey, you heal your energetic field first. And the energy field is comprised of 3 different energy systems. Then you come into the physical body and release all of that. And then you go into the pathogens. But the one thing that stays congruent through all of these systems is emotions. We are emotional beings. We experience this world through emotions. And so what the baseline of addiction is, it is emotion. And the last relationship I had really gutted me. It really threw me through the ringer and was actually a part of not this time of quitting, but the time before that when I quit. And I had to really be honest with myself. Why did I allow someone like that in my life? Why did I allow all this stuff in when I've done it time and time again? And it became so clear to me that I was addicted to shame. I allowed people in my life that perpetuated this shame. And I really then asked myself, what is this shame connected to? Codependency for me. And also, what do I need to step into to step out of shame and step into my power, step into that energy that's always been there and is a part of me? And it was all about creating these energy healing courses. It was all about the codependency. I had to walk away from my massage job because I technically was creating a codependent relationship I couldn't take on people's energy anymore. I was taking on people's energy. They truly weren't healing. It's amazing how with massage, a lot of people come to you and they think, oh, because I'm paying you, you'll fix me. At some point, and like I said in my last episode, healers are meant to be activators. And what you do in between your sessions is what really fucking dictates how much you will heal and how much you will grow. Most of the people, when it comes to the massage, would just be on this repeat pattern. And what I've noticed through my lessons in addiction is when I start to get into cycles where I crave substances and smoking and stuff like that, is when I'm in toxic cycles. And I learned this firsthand after my first time of quitting. And the first time I quit was while I was living in New Zealand. And I'm going to dive into that story. That'll be the first part of sharing this cycle. But I wanted to really touch on, again, that foundation of understanding now that sensitivity plays a big role into it. If your energy field is damaged in any way, shape, or form, which can be brought on by a number of different things, this can make you more susceptible to energy addictions, chemical dependencies, because you are more fragile and more apt to take in people's energy. As a massage therapist, I would take on people's diseases. I would take on their emotions simply by touching them. And it really taught me how much our body actually, holds on to stuff. And through my healing journey, by working with the body, I learned what I needed to let go of, what I needed to heal, and taking ownership of my emotions. But it also taught me how enmeshed I was, how much emotion I was taking on, how unconsciously people were energetically taking from me, and how I really had to establish new boundaries and new ways of being. And God help me, give me the strength to really bring coherence to this message, because it's really intense for me. I had to do an energy healing around the emotion of anger because I wanted to be grounded. I wanted to be very clear on this message coming in, because a lot of stuff I tried recording, the recording sounded like shit. And I took it as a sign of like, okay, learning experience. And I just sat there, and one of the biggest lessons that I learned while going through rehab is owning your side of the street, and also knowing that not everyone was going to come on your journey. And I learned that firsthand with how little people wanted to take ownership of their part with my addiction, with where I ended up. People like to say, oh, it's genetic and you just happen to get it. But it reminds me of this story of a child who was adopted. I believe he was Black. And then he went and lived with a white family. He ended up getting the same genetic disease as that family. He was no way associated. The only thing he was associated by was the environment. And the amount of unresolved emotions that we as a society have learned to repress, it becomes toxic, and they can get transferred from one person to another. And this is where I hope one day that people who have addicts realize that it is a symptom of a deeper genetic issue within their family lineage of trauma, and that they are also a part of it energetically, and that not only the child needs, or their offspring, or whoever the fuck it is in their family, needs to heal, but they need to heal as well. They should be doing it alongside them. And honestly, I believe this course that I'm making would be very beneficial in outpatient, because they're there. If they do a 90-day program, they're surrounded by counselors, they're surrounded by people who can gauge their health, mentors, and then you add in this energy healing, which really allows them to cleanse and clear the depth of their stuff. So when they go back out into the world, not only do they have a deeper understanding of their woundings, they've worked through them. And in working through them, that then strengthens their aura. So once they go back out, it's not like being shell-shocked. And they can then really be strong, and their aura will protect them from taking on energies. It also will give them greater discernment on when to walk away from things, because what I realized on my journey is I had so many bad habits inflicted on, and I say inflicted because my family demanded a lot of things that were not in alignment with my energy, did not honor me. I'm not a parent, so I can't really speak on this. And I know every parent's trying to do the best that they can, but my parents were coming out of a lot of wounding. And as a child, I was an emotional battery for them. I was played an emotional parent role, which is fucking unhealthy. And every time I brought this up, both my parents were like, "We never asked this of you." Just such a gaslighty, fucked up way of being. And there's my anger. Through my anger of this situation, whenever I'm angry, I ask why? Why the fuck? And that fuck sent me down a road of looking at where they came from. Have they grown? Are they doing the work? And I'm really grateful that my parents, in their own way, are doing their work. I know that also in doing my own work that I have a lack of tolerance for them energetically taking from me, because I've been an energetic battery from them. People will put their cords into you and start taking energy. But I also had to realize on my journey that I accepted that on some level. And as I started becoming conscious, I started disconnecting that stuff because I could feel it's like energetic rape in a way. And I know it might be a trigger happy word, but people are so unaware of how we are exchanging energy. People are very forceful with their energy because we've taught how to manipulate, how to get what we want by acting a certain way. And I don't think this is healthy. I don't think it's helpful in the society that we live in. And I believe we can come to a new way of being where people's energy are respected and we all get what we need, because there is enough to go around. I do believe that, even though there are times where I'm sure you can look at this world and be like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you do. I'm sure we all do. But for me, the biggest thing is understanding energy. It all comes back to energy. And growing up, I did not get the support that I needed as an energy healer. And most people, I believe everyone has this gift, and at some point it gets shut down. But I do believe people who are neurodivergent, because they have there's a process called pruning where your neurotransmitters have these little feelers, and over time, the neurotypical will prune so they know what not to take in energetically. But neurodivergent, specifically for autism, don't. So we have more neurotransmitters, which means we're taking in more information. They've also found that people with ADHD are taking in 30% more information at every single given moment at every single time. So this level of sensitivity, and I don't think every person who is a neurodivergent is spiritually inclined. Do I think they can pick up on more? Absolutely. They're taking in more information. So of course they're going to be able to pick up on more stuff naturally. But for me, on my journey, being a shaman, on top of this additional sensitivity led me to my scoliosis, I believe, led me to my chronic pain. And that's because I could feel other people's emotions. Literally, I remember as a child walking down the street, and it's like I would get punched in the face by people's energies. And all of a sudden, I'd feel their feelings. I could hear their thoughts. And to protect myself, I locked up my body. And I would start throwing people's energy back at them. But in turn, that actually kept people away from me, because no one wants to confront their shit, but also the way in which I did it was very volatile, because it's almost like the movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, when they go and find the ultimate weapon, and it's a gun made by housewives, and it shoots out their emotions so men can actually feel what they're feeling. That scene, to me, I remember I almost cried the last time I watched it, because I was like, that's literally what my life has been like. People shoot their emotions out onto me, and it's a way of transference, because cortisol, the stress hormone, they have found can be transferred from person to person, human to human, without even touching them. So you think about your auric field expands out for some people, depending up to 6 feet. It could be more. There hasn't been enough research on this to say, but think about that. You're walking around people, you're coming into contact not just with physical them, but energetic them. And that's a whole nother level of, I wish I understood that, because that played into so many other addictions. My addictions with sex and partners, those go hand in hand with me. Addiction, the chemical dependency, also addiction to negative thinking, addiction to food for me. I ate heavy foods because it's the only way I felt safe. With food, there's another thing that goes into it, but then that plays into pathogens, but I'll talk about that later. But as I look back on my life, I had a propensity for addictive behavior because of my ADHD and the seeking of dopamine. No one taught me how to deal with this. My parents just put me in a corner. They didn't deal with me. They left me to my own devices. I couldn't seek, I didn't receive any help that I needed. So this level of knowing something's wrong with me, I believe, is what leads to a lot of, complex trauma for people that are neurodivergent. And then you add in any additional life issues. And I definitely had a big trauma happen to me when I was 3. And then we have, the divorce, traumas with my parents. And then as a child at 14, I wanted to unalive myself. I know there's certain words you can't say on here, and I hope I do not get in trouble. But I, as an energy sensitive, I will never forget, I was at my mom's house and I was laying in bed and I could feel the world's pain. I remember sitting there and weeping and just being like, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it. My mom's like, you're just so dramatic. What are you doing? And just the amount of shame. And I even remember as a child, because I was so sensitive, people would always say, don't be sensitive. Being sensitive is fucking beautiful and a gift and something we all need more of, to have that emotional intelligence, because in being emotionally sensitive, that means you're taking emotional ownership. Let me say it again. In being emotionally sensitive to the fullest means you are taking emotional fucking responsibility. And in that ownership, it also allows you to have proper boundaries. It allows you to respect other people's boundaries. It allows you to respect yours. And vice versa. But also it allows you to know this is someone else's emotions. These are mine. It allows you to say it, allows you for people to hear it, and then act accordingly. This is my little autistic brain as a child. Like, everything just seems so simple and straightforward. Energetically, that does. But for some reason, treat your neighbor as thyself is not an actual thing. But in reality, it is. Because this was really sad. I had this realization. People do play by the golden rule. The only irony is they treat their neighbor as they want to be treated, but on a subconscious level, which is utter shit. People treat each other the way they treat themselves. So in fact, they are aspiring to the golden rule, but it's fucking backwards. And that's why sometimes I'm like, am I dyslexic or is the world dyslexic? I mean, there's moments where I'm like, I don't know if I have the problem here. I don't think I do. I think I live in a world that's utterly fucking confused and backwards. And we have a lot of dis-ease and issues, chronic issues now, due to that dysregulation and the amount of gaslighting that has come from it, due to the social structures that we've had that don't allow for healing because of the dictatorship that we've had throughout the years. When I talk about years, I talk about years. I just finished watching a show from the Middle Age. It was like My Lady Jane. It was a fun spinoff of the Queen Jane. They only made one season of it. It's more fanciful than anything. But just you see what women go through. You just see where a lot of these things spawn from: classism, racism, all this stuff, and just how it's so still weirdly, widely accepted because we've taught to sweep it under the rug. Don't deal with it. Well, what happens with addiction, I believe it's an allergic reaction to this lack of emotional responsibility. And at some point, someone takes ownership or they can't avoid it. And those are people who have addictions. And for me, when it comes to addiction, that's the same as someone getting autoimmune. That's the same as someone getting cancer. That is the same. And it's sad because some people, they're like, I didn't wish this on someone. Well, we didn't wish to have addictions either. These are just things that have gone on time and time again. And the sad part is these woundings then create social woundings, which then create economies based on these emotional woundings, which then creates the products that are creating more disease, the foods that also dysregulate us and also add into another layer of addiction. That's why for me, if you expand the scope and what it touches on so far, so where, if you bring it back down to the microcosm, is healing the energetic field of yourself. Because what that does is it creates a ripple effect and a signal to the collective. Just how monkeys knew how to, I think they were like eating bananas a certain way, and the monkeys on another island were doing the same exact thing. Yes, humans kinetically teleport and mentally to each other that way, that hive mind mentality. And this is where a lot of addictions, mental addiction, negative emotional addiction comes into play. And it's scary because I think people are more addicted to emotions than anything else, which keeps us stuck, addicted to hate, addicted to drama, addicted to shaming others, addicted to judgment. And at some point, someone's going to say enough. And those are usually the black sheeps. Someone who's like, for me, I love that I was born a shaman in a Christian family because I believe, has opened my family up to a lot, but also it showed me, it allowed me to heal on a deep level of embracing my Christian side and my shamanic and witch side, and knowing that God created me perfectly. There's nothing fucking wrong with me. And in fact, it's a blessing that I have both. And I just watched it energetically heal through my timelines, through my genetics. And in doing this work, I'm setting the future of my lineage up for success. I think anyone who does this work is amazing. And I believe that people who have addictions are so allergic to these undertones of generational trauma that it needs to be addressed. And the fact that addiction is on the rise and mental health is on the rise is a sign of that energetic allergic reaction. I'm calling it an allergic reaction, 100%. Mental illness to me is an allergic reaction to the society that we have today. And a pill isn't going to fix that. And that's the irony that makes me so mad. And I'm going to have to do some healing around this later. As a shaman, there's so many shamanic tools that they use that has almost been plagiarized by pharmaceutical properties into synthetic nature. And I do believe they help, but I believe they're supposed to be medicine, not something that you are stuck on for the rest of your life. For me, as a smoker, and this is what really helped me this last time, I realized that smoking was ADHD medicine for me. And it gave me a lot of empathy because I would never tell a diabetic to stop taking their diabetic medicine. I know that's probably a wide stretch for some of you listening to this, but just an example, I would never tell someone to get off their medication just because, they shouldn't be on it or whatever. Like, the fact that our society deems some stuff okay and then others not, my autistic brain cannot get behind, because energetically it mirrors the same frequency of masking the core issue. And I do believe that on your journey, if you need assistance through a coach, a mentor, a therapist, fantastic. If you need specific help with, for me, energy healing is what I do now. I do that regularly because it's a tool, a self-care tool that I utilize. I utilize physical wellness with my body, a deeper understanding, and I'll talk more about that. But I really, when it comes to medication, as someone who's use chemical substances to support me being able to deal with this society, because being a neurodivergent in this world where there's so much suppressed emotions, those emotions are so loud and so toxic and the most dysregulating thing. And so I wouldn't be surprised if most addicts are, to some degree, very sensitive. And they do that to numb the world and the reality they're in because they haven't been taught how to properly navigate that. I feel like I totally deviated there, but we're just going to keep rolling, because energetically, for me, that's where the blueprint of our past is. And in healing the blueprint, you are then able to shift your reality. And this is stuff that I wish I would have known when I first started my healing journey, when I first started moving through addiction, because I know now it would have helped with such great ease. And I'm going to get to all the exciting stuff that I discovered. And I'm going to share this process because I also know some of you may not need the energy healing. Everyone is so diverse and different. I know for people who are extremely energetically sensitive like me, that healing their energy is crucial, especially if you've had addictions, multiple addictions. Yo. And chronic pain, and the fact that I've had, the scoliosis, the early onsets of Parkinson's, addiction, and then you throw in all the other life stuff that's happened. Of course. Like, there's such a level of empathy that I have towards myself, and understanding that it was a symptom of everything else, and it's something that can be cleared by addressing the root cause. And in addressing the root cause, what you do is you basically lessen that obsession. And in creating these tools, when stuff crops up, I can catch it early on rather than letting it go till my body's completely dysregulated, and then I'm off, like, using again, I'm smoking again. Having done AA for 3 years, I do know, if you've been in AA, if you know that feeling. And I believe there's so much pressure on addicts too, of that shame of like, oh, I have all this time, like, what are they going to think? The pressure of what their families think, you're a failure. Like, it's just so frustrating. And I feel unfair, the amount of energy that's put on addicts when they are a symptom of a bigger root cause within their family. And they're the only ones taking a fucking hit for it. That's what I'm not okay with, and makes me very upset. And I'm just going to take a moment because I need to take a deep breath. But again, all we can do is heal ourselves and understand ourselves. And on my journey, each time I've gotten to understand myself deeper. And in the next episode, what I'm going to share with you guys is the beginning of this journey. And I'm going to keep it to smoking cigarettes, because for me, every time I've quit, I've been able to quit everything else. It's the smoking that was the undertone for me, the true cause, the true issue, and the true thing that has really brought about the biggest healing for me. All of the addictions have, like, struggles with drinking, with drugs, and smoking pot, even though I don't think that's bad now, but there's been a journey with all of it. And I think I shared this in the beginning, with the time frame and when I grew up, how I grew up, it's etched into me. And there's a part of me that is really grateful because it allowed me to seek ways of healing. Had, pot been legal, that might have been something that I would have fallen back on and never really truly healed to the depths that I needed to heal in. And sitting here, I'm very grateful for the lessons, and I want to share with you each stage of the journey, so you can sit and say, I haven't tried that. Maybe that will help me. Oh, this resonates with me. Oh, I tried this didn't work. Okay, maybe this is something that I missed from that. I want to share so you can feel inspired, so you can get creative, so you can see things that worked with me. Because I know as I quit, people would share with me their experience. And I've taken little bits and pieces on my journey and tried them out, because you're not going to know until you try, pretty much. Kind of like when you go to your grandma's house and they're like, don't knock until you try it. You know, they try to force you to eat something as a little kid and you're like, ugh. Oh, my parents had an issue with me growing up because I was so picky, little autistic child, just woof, so picky. But I want to share this journey in all of its rawness, but it's going to be bits and clips and pieces. I'm going to stick to more so what I did, what I experienced, what I went through, and then what was the outcome. And as I share this in each episode, you will see the progression and you will be able to gauge, well, where am I at compared to this? Where am I next to that? And I really encourage you to tap in and see if any of this stuff resonates with you. Because one thing for me that helped me on my journey was not listening to the world around me, but listening to my body. What lit me up? It's like a little bell would ring, and I'm like, ooh, I want to try that. And so I'm going to share everything and all my knowledge so that you can not only have a better understanding of yourself, your body, you might find something that will really help you on your health and wellness journey, something you've been missing, something that might give you that aha moment. You know what I mean? Because that's what matters, is your aha moment in your healing journey. And I want to inspire that. I don't want you to say my way is the only way, because that's bullshit. That's kind of like my take on religion. I believe Christ is in every single religion. It's a matter in which how he chooses to speak to you. Some people it may be through one religion. Me, it's through multiple. So, and that's my truth. And I have found that through working with the body, that's the best way to receive the Christ consciousness. It's not through the church, because Jesus died and his energy, the spirit of Christ, lives in us, in our body. And so taking more time to work with the body, to me, is more important than communing with people who are coming from a place of unhealed, unconscious, whatever the fuck, perpetuating more wounds out in our society. And we all know religion definitely has done that. Every fucking religion has done that. Not singling out one, not at all. And that's the other irony. Anyways, to me, it's just ironic that we like to blame others, but then it's like we have a huge ass log that's ripped our complete head off and we're running around headless wanting to blame everybody else. But really, we need to put our head back on and figure our shit out first before we even start coming after other people. I think that's where our society's at. And you know, that's another truth I had to really get clear on my, healing journey. I wanted to point the finger at everybody else, and while they did have a part to play, obviously when it comes to addiction, I was the one who wasn't coping with life. So I had to figure out a way in which I could stay sensitive, I could allow my gifts to come out, I could be who I was and not feel any shame, and work through that healing and get free of it. And as I came out of chronic pain, as I reversed my onsets of early Parkinson's, reversed my scoliosis, reversed my cravings, and worked through all the addictive emotions, which is the baseline, I'm telling you, the baseline of all addiction, because you work through that, that's where the fucking miracles happen. And for me, I had to figure out the system in which to tap in and clear those emotional blockages and those emotional dysregulations within the energetic system, and how to do that. I'm all about patterns, and that's also why I love being autistic. Like, I love my little gift of being able to see energy. I've been able to see it since I was a little kid, and I've been told that I can't, that's bullshit, but no, it's not. No, it is absolutely not. And to anyone who's listening who has gifts that's been shunned, welcome. You are in the right place, because I see you. We are sensitive,
It's a matter of taking ownership of that sensitivity so we don't take on other people's stuff. And the most beautiful thing as an energetic sensitive is I've gotten to a point where I don't feel people's energy the way I did. I'm not reactive. I'm able to stay in my peace and not feel and hear and be constantly accosted by other people's unprocessed emotion. I'm fucking free. Like, that's amazing. And I want that for other people, because if you took that amount of stress and information that's coming in, you reduce the need to use. Because one thing my mom shared with me, and this makes sense, she was going to a chiropractor and he was like, the reason why people with ADHD have a high likelihood of addiction is because when they drink, it stops all the chatter. And you've heard people who get on ADHD medication, it's the same way. But both of them are not good for your body. Just like cigarettes is not good for my body, but it helped me manage. It helped me cope. And for me, because I wasn't taking medication, I didn't have that disguise of, oh, this is okay for me because it's a fucking medication. I had the reality of, oh, you're doing stuff that's shameful, that's bad. So I really was, forced to look at this stuff because it was constantly in my fucking face. Not only the judgment I placed on myself, but the judgment that the world places on all that stuff. And so it pushed me to find a way to tap into my healing, to be able to clear these emotions and to work out and through these blockages, through my emotions, so that I could be free of not just the emotions that weren't mine, but my emotional dependency on those emotions, such as fear. Fear is a big one. And, we all have these emotions. It's normal. But do we all properly deal with them? I don't think so. I think there is a pandemic of unresolved emotional issues, which is creating a toxicity in the world, which is reflected out now in so many different ways, in so many different diseases, in so many imbalances within our society. And there's a lot, and I'm sure everyone has one that really sticks out to them. But for me, the biggest issue that I've seen is the lack of understanding when it comes to energy systems, how we transfer energy, and how that transference keeps people from taking ownership of their emotion, and then it burdens other people energetically that shouldn't have to, which in my opinion leads to chemical dependency, because they're trying to numb out emotions that aren't theirs because we weren't meant to. It's an allergic reaction to other people's bullshit, other people's emotions that they should have been dealing with. But I understand that society has not taught us how to do it. And at some point, someone can't take the bullshit and won't stay silent. And that's usually the addict in the family. So, or the black sheep. So there's someone who breaks free of the cycles, the toxic cycles. And for me, that's me. And I know that this was a long and kind of chaotic episode, but for me, I wanted to really lay the foundation of what I will be talking about in at least some brief fashion, some form of understanding, and just kind of an opening for people who can have the space to resonate, if this resonates with them or not. And so they can learn, or if they're curious, if they want to help somebody in their family has addiction, or if they have the addiction, all are welcome here. Because again, I think we all have emotional addictions. How that addiction expresses itself will depend on the person. And usually, if someone in the family does not deal with the addiction, it then will get passed on through your genetics to your children. So it has to stop somewhere. And That is why I recommend everybody do their own work. And if you have kids who you're seeing these stuff, do the healing with them. Or better yet, you do the healing first, because that will energetically shift a lot of things for your child subconsciously. So I'm just putting that out there. And the only benefit you'll get out of it is learning to love yourself more deeply. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be your child's choice on whether or not they choose to heal. But you can choose to do your own work while they're doing it, which energetically lightens the load. Because when someone in the family chooses to do this healing work, it is like taking off a layer of the density within your family line, which makes it easier for them to heal. It's almost like, I forget the name of the man who broke the mile record. Everyone said it was impossible. No one could do it. After he did it, so many other people were able to do it in a short amount of time. Other people were running that amount. It is so amazing what frequencies and energy can truly do. So if you're an addict, I encourage you to, take a look at energy healing as a part of your process. I encourage everyone to do it, really. But especially for people who are addicts, who are very sensitive, it is something that has truly helped me. And again, I'll share all my process so you can know, but I wildly encourage you to look at somatic therapy and energy healing. Absolute game changer, and truly makes a difference where other therapies and coaching have not. So that's something that I encourage you to look into. But this was one hell of an episode. But again, I wanted to create that foundation so you can understand me. When you listen to the episode, you can understand the basis of where it stems from. And so you can understand and see the growth in the process, because I want you to feel encouraged by growth instead, and look at it as growth versus failure, which this is the first time on my journey with quitting smoking that I've not felt failure. I've felt success. And the way I view it and my mindset around it has shifted 100%. And I give total thanks to each and every stage and step on the journey. So if you've fallen back on things, just know it's a time to learn and allow grace to come in. And that's the beautiful thing about being human, is we have access to that grace if we so choose. And we are resilient and we can do this. And so I'm going to share my journey so you have a better understanding of possible ways to work through this stuff, and just to inspire you to be your own self-healer.